Hello there, what is going on guys? Thank you so much for stopping by. We are looking at Master Mode, Scum and Villainy, and this is where the fun begins. We have reached the Cartel Warlords. These guys are a step up in difficulty from anything that's gone before. You are going to need to bring with you a specific set of roles and skills and classes, and your group's going to need their wits about them for sure. As always, we're starting off looking at our group composition. It's 2 tanks, one for Tuchuk, one for Sunder. At the moment, Shadow or Assassin tank reigns supreme for Sunder. You have an ability in your skill tree that gives you a 15% permanent speed boost that's going to be critical while you're kiting him early on, as well as some amazing defensive abilities that'll let you avoid mechanics later in the fight. The one thing that I like about this fight is no matter what 4 DPS classes you bring, each should have legitimate viability at some point in the fight. I've always been an advocate of bringing a good blend of ranged and melee and mixed classes, and that's no different here. When we go through the mechanics, I'll try to give a few examples of where certain classes can excel over others. For your 2 healers, I would definitely have one with a single target healing approach, with the other more of an AoE group healing mentality. The tank with Tuchuk is going to take a reasonable amount of damage over a prolonged period and will need to be focused. I'm going to go through each boss one by one in a moment, but just to generalize, the Warlords now have their special abilities from the get-go. Some of these abilities are new, some of them are rollover mechanics from Veteran mode, but they would have activated at a certain trigger point, like Sunder's Fixate for example. We're going to go through these bosses in the kill order. First up would be Captain Horik. He's going to do Spray and Pray, which is a conal attack that you just need to move out of, and a new ability called Corrosive Grenade that's a damage over time that comes with a slow. What makes this tricky is your healers are going to be busy cleansing something else, which we'll talk about in a moment, so it will need to be self-cleansed, or a DPS with a cleansing ability will need to do it, and this is going to be crucial if the tank kiting Sunder gets the grenade. The good news is, any ability which prevents movement impairing effects, such as the Gunslinger's Hunker Down or Vanguard's Hold the Line, will prevent the Corrosive Grenade getting through. If you have a Sentinel, you could ask them to take the ability that puts a cleanse on their Transcendence ability, and just hit that whenever the tank with Sunder gets the grenade. Second in your kill order is going to be Tuchuk. He has 2 main things going on, the first of which is called Destroy Armor. And this is where your healers are going to be cleansing pretty much on cooldown, because while he has this debuff, the shield and armor rating is reduced to almost 0. The other thing to look out for is the axe toss or the push. Just make sure you don't get pushed against a wall. Some people use the railing to get knocked against, some people just kind of turn left and right. It's completely up to you. Third on your kill order is going to be Vilus Gar. Up to the point that Tuchuk dies, he's going to be using his grapple ability. He's going to pull a random player towards him, sometimes pulling you into the Spray and Pray of Horik, so be cautious of that. Once Tuchuk dies, things will change slightly. The first thing that happens is he and Sunder will get the Rivals buff, making them go into a sort of mini enrage once they pass 50% health. Gar will swap his grapple for Surprise Shiving. This ability hits quite hard. It can be got out of using a stun break, but if stun break's not available, that player will need to be heavily healed for the duration of the cast. Once Gar dies, you're going to get the 3 Cartel Lieutenant ads to spawn that you need to kill before you can set to work on Sunder. Sunder himself is going to do Fixate from the very beginning of the fight, as we discussed earlier. And upon Tuchuk's death, not only getting the Rivals buff, he will be able to cast the ability Undeniable, which is going to increase his movement speed for 5 seconds and also stun the tank that's tanking him. This is where having a Shadow or an Assassin will really come to the fore. In the final phase, after Vilus Gar's death, the DPS will be dealing with the Lieutenants to begin with, but Sunder is going to gain the ability called The End. In Master Mode, the cast is 1 second long, after which he will hurl a blue projectile at his target. That projectile hitting you will result in an instant death, unless you can offer damage-resisting defensive cooldowns. But this intro's been long enough, so rather than discuss all those options now, we'll get the footage rolling and we'll talk about what's happening once we get there.
Now let's do this properly.
3, 2, 1.
Still want to fight, huh? Let's give him one.
Quick. Grenade. Horik. Like, piss off, man.
That's my co-tank cursing having to use resilience to cleanse himself within the first few seconds of the fight.
Fuck you with your grenade.
Spray on the tank.
You're also going to hear an occasional call for when Horik does his spray and pray on somebody, and also the healers coordinating their cleanse on me. I like to put my back to the railing here, but I can find it a little bit inconsistent, so I always make sure I'm going to get knocked into the inside if something goes wrong, as opposed to getting smashed into the wall.
Spray on rigs.
And right here you get to see Gar pull me back into the spray and pray. It's just horrible, but especially combined with two Chuck's destroy armor.
Save rigs. Save rigs.
Horik at 10. Spray on Balico and Yumi. %.
With Horik's death, we take spray and pray off the table as well as the grenade, and we're now able to stack the group a little bit tighter. The healers would have expended a lot of energy in that opening phase, so popping Scrambling Shield from the Gunslinger just buys them a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah.
As you can see, there's still a lot of outgoing damage. The quicker you can cleanse the armor debuff on the tank of 2-Chuck, the better.
Oh, emergency healing.
Should have run. Too late now.
20.
The countdown when 2-Chuck is approaching death, just to give the tank of Sunder a bit of warning that these new mechanics are going to start to kick in.
5.
Can move in the middle.
Once 2-Chuck dies, we move our whole group to the middle of the arena. This is going to allow our Sunder tank to perform a circle around the outside of us and stay within healing range for the longest period. And the main group's now dealing with Gar's shivving ability. Every time you see the cast cancel, it's because the person has used their stun break. And we do get quite lucky. I don't think anybody actually gets it 2 times in a row. That's not to say that it can't happen, so healers still need to be wary.
I had to go in with a mustone in order to save you.
My people aren't known as fighters. Gives us an edge.
And it's at this point I need to say,
Oh, and you-
take what you see happening with Sunder with a pinch of salt. My co-tank is being chased by Sunder on his screen. Despite what you see here, there is some desync within the game and it's quite apparent here. Gar's death will bring the 3 lieutenant adds.
Okay, that's 10%.
They are taunt immune, so we have 3 DPS go pick up threat on them,
Okay, so
and then they
Five.
will follow that player into the middle. They can then be AoE down.
My
But more
people
importantly,
aren't known
Sunder is
as
now
fighters.
going to start to do
Give
the
us
end
an edge.
ability.
Entrance. Okay, I'll take the ramp.
So my Shadow co-tank is going to use Resilience to mitigate
I can
1,
cheese it
and is then
more.
going to use Force
I'm not sure
Cloak
why
combined
my
with
other
Cloak of
focus-
Resilience utility to
Yeah, I
mitigate
have to
another,
stop for something.
and is also carrying the 2 Cloaks Tactical to
Alright, Mark,
potentially
we're not
repeat that.
focused.
You could also take the
Okay.
Fade utility at level 51 to reduce the cooldown of Force Cloak. The timing has to be quite precise, stealthing out after the cast, but before the blue projectile hits you. It doesn't quite work out this time, but the theory is sound. I've taken over now on the Vanguard. On the first one I'm going to negate using Cultopacks combined with the Super Commando implant. That's going to help me absorb all of this damage.
Try to patch
For the second one I'm going to use my reactive shield, but that alone probably won't be enough to save me.
Okay, we're on the last
I
one.
need to have a decent amount of health. I also need to make sure that I continue to build stacks of
10%,
frontline soldier
and it's about
and
to
make
die
sure that I
dead.
use my energy
So
blast
just focus
prior
on
to the cast.
armor.
I have Force Armor from our Sage, and in hindsight if I wanted to make this extra safe I could have used a tank adrenal, but it worked out on the day. Our other tanking option is of course the Guardian. Saber Reflect is a brilliant ability for dealing with this. However, some of the Guardian's other defensives aren't quite as strong because we're dealing with force tech damage.
Okay, I got it. I think you should take it.
So me and my co-tank are just trading taunts here depending on who has the appropriate cooldown available. If both of us were to die, there are DPS classes that have the ability to negate this damage, but controlling the threats is going to become an issue at that point. But in theory, a well-timed gunslinger roll or a scoundrel scamper or a blade blitz would get the job done.
It's fine, you do what you like.
Yeah. So, tough luck.
With so much to discuss, I realise that this video is quite lengthy. If you stuck through to the end, thank you very much. I hope you found the video entertaining and informative. And as Sunder hits the deck, all that's left for me is to say good hunting, and I'll see you on the next one. I'm out.